Welcome to the Last in Line podcast, where we discuss faith, hope, and truth in the lives of amazing servant leaders. You are in the right place if you crave purpose and if you hunger for a life of significance. This podcast applies biblical truth to our daily lives, and we pray that you walk away encouraged and inspired. This is the Last in Line podcast.
Hey guys, glad you're back for part 2 of our 2-part mini series with the 4 young men from the Apogee Strong Academy, where, like I mentioned last week, the first installment was 2 young men. Hope you enjoyed that conversation. These 2 young men today are none other than Tate Seever and Logan Wzorek. Now, those names might not mean much to you right now, but I promise in a few years, you're going to hear about these guys, because just like a lot of these Apogee dudes, they are strong leaders in the making, and they are going to be strong men who lead families, probably own businesses, probably lead communities, are in some sort of position of prominence, I would almost guarantee, by the way that they carry themselves, articulate themselves, and are driven to be disciplined and resilient when it comes to life and learning. And these guys are no different than the first 2. They're just powerhouse studs, and they're very humble, of course. Most teenagers, though, are not as self-aware as these young men. And again, they know they have a lot to learn, but they are committed to the process. They're committed and bought into what Matt Boudreau and Tim Kennedy have built, and the standard, which is the foundation by which Apogee stands on, to building young heroes. And so they're all bought in, they're all committed, and they're all dedicated. So it's not about perfection, it's about progress, and I hope you see that from these guys. So again, I won't go into a huge intro, but this is part 2. I won't say final series, final installment, but there might be more to come, but this is the final 2 dudes of the 4 I interviewed from Apogee Strong Academy. So help me welcome Tate Seever and Logan Wzorek to Last in Line podcast. Tate Seever from Apogee Strong Program, welcome to Last in Line podcast.
Yeah, thank you, sir, for having me. I'm honored to be here.
Well, I hear good things about all of you guys. Matt Boudreau and I have gotten to know each other over the last couple of years, and I know exactly what their program is about. I know what he's trying to accomplish, and man, he speaks really highly of you guys. And so no pressure. You've got a lot to live up to, because he's been talking really good about you. But we're going to have fun today. This is going to be super informal. You're not being graded. There's no secret cameras anywhere. So this will all be a good time. So you told me off camera that you're the youngest, and you've got some of siblings. You've got some older siblings, and you're 17. So tell me again, like, this audience is older people to you. They're older, they're probably in their 40s and 50s, most of them, mostly men, and a lot of Christian men listen to this. So we're all about our faith here, and but give us an idea, kind of how long you've been with Apogee Strong, and kind of whether you're homeschooled, whether you're in, if this is add-on to homeschooling, or just give us kind of a background from your side.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been in the program for about a year and a half, and the whole program is a 12-month thing. So it's basically each module, each month is a challenge, and each challenge has a book and then a thing that we have to do, and it's something that we can learn from. Like, the first month was practicing saying yes sir, no sir, yes ma'am, no ma'am. That does a lot, especially for a job interview like we're about to do, is saying like yes sir, no sir. It shows a lot more, like, you're a lot more formal and a lot more professional than just saying yeah, whatever, okay, sure. And so I went through the whole program, and it definitely has changed my life a lot. And I'm a lot more confident. I'm a lot more, like, certain of myself. And I've definitely gotten more humble. And even though I might sound like I'm like, oh, I'm so cool, but it's like I still have a lot more room for improvement as well. And I'm always growing and I'm always learning. And that's kind of what I learned from the Apogee program is that even if you're like the most experienced guy in the world, you still have a lot to learn. And so I went through the program and basically what I learned, or not what I learned, what was I going to say? What was the question again? I'm sorry. I
Oh,
got a little.
no, I was just wondering if you are homeschooled and this is in addition to
Right.
that.
Okay, right. So yeah, so I bounced back and forth between school and homeschool, and I mainly did school, but I didn't really like it a lot. And I'm in my senior year, so I transferred from a public school to a charter school that teaches about the Constitution and the founding fathers and finances and stuff. And I think that's like, even though I see a lot of flaws in the school system, I still think that's still a step in the right direction. And I I have down like I have things I like about it and things that I don't.
Yeah.
But what I've learned is that, especially from Matt, is that all education is self-education. And whether if you decide to go to school or not, it comes down to what are you willing to learn? Like it comes down to like how are like um you're the one who's learning. And it doesn't matter if you sit through the smartest class in the world. It matters if you process the information, you put in the work
Hmm.
and take in the knowledge. So what I think the problem with school is that they try to convince that we can only learn from school. And it's not true at all because
Right.
when I was homeschooled through junior high, I like learned so much more than I had before. And I realized that usually a 8 hour day of school was like I learned way more from just a few hours of learning just from me than I did in school.
Yeah. Well, good. Thank you for sharing that. We're going to go into, so I do something kind of just to keep it relaxing and kind of informal. We do something where you're going to complete a sentence that I give you. Okay. And this is going to be from your perspective and it's called life sentence. Okay. So I'm going to give you this sentence and then you're going to fill in the blank at the end and just however you have lived it, whatever you think about, whatever applies to your life. Okay. So
Okay.
let's start with something around leadership. This is a leadership podcast, and so we're going to talk a little bit about that and what you're learning. So let's start with this is you talking, okay? So something that I am learning most about leadership is
Getting comfortable being uncomfortable. And I think that I'm also doing a thing right now where I'm practicing my communication skills because I've noticed in public I'm not as good as communicating as maybe I am in some other places.
Mhm,
And part of that is getting comfortable being uncomfortable.
mhm,
And then once you do that, you become comfortable. And it just comes with speaking as well, is that you get more natural to it and you get into the rhythm of doing it more.
mhm.
That getting uncomfortable doing it makes you strangely comfortable. And I kind of like how David Goggins, have you heard of David Goggins?
Oh yeah, yep.
Yeah, he's like, does the craziest, like,
Mhm,
painful stuff. And to the point where he's a natural at it and he makes it
mhm,
so easy, like, not easy, but makes it his comfort. So I
mhm.
feel like that is one thing that resonated me with a lot is getting comfortable with being uncomfortable so I can become comfortable within that
Yeah.
sort of state of mind.
That's good. I like it. All right, so let's kind of dig in a little bit here on you feel relaxed, you feel good. Now we're kind of we're buddies now, right? There's nothing.
Yeah.
All the gloves are off. Everything's relaxed. Nobody's keeping score here. So when you came into Apogee a year and a half ago or so, and till now, what would you say? Because I think you mentioned communication is something you're working on right now, but what would you
Mhm.
say is a skill that you've acquired in that time that you didn't have when you came in? Like anything come to mind that you're better at today than you were a year and a half ago?
Yeah, I think one thing is it combines with speaking is kind of like how to present yourself.
Mm.
Like learn like as simple as like shaking someone's hand and saying like nice to meet you and stuff and looking them straight in the eye. And one thing was when I did the interviews for CEO, like one of the months we had to like interview CEOs of businesses, learn from
Mm-hmm.
their journey, their experience, and then I think another one was first responders. That one I got a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people because I my uncle knows a lot of guys. So one thing I learned from that and from all the other mentors I met through the calls is that like how to present myself and how to like speak. And that's like I think that's really important to know how to be a better communicator. I believe Jordan Peterson said this that he was like he gave an example. He's like, if you're a carpenter and you're a better communicator, that makes you 10 times better as a carpenter. And it
Mm.
only makes you better to become a better communicator. So I feel like how to present yourself like professionally,
Yep.
also how to speak better, is something that helped me a lot because I was like very shy growing up and I just didn't know how to talk to people very well. So I feel like that was one thing that really like struck me with Apogee.
That's great. I mean, I can't, not only do I agree with what Jordan Peterson said, but I can't stress to you enough, still to this day, when I meet somebody for the first time, the first thing I remember about them is their handshake. And the fact that they made eye
Yeah.
contact, like you said, like if it is, yeah. So don't ever let that, like, that is the first thing you should do because that literally is the first impression you make. If the person you're talking to is anything worth anything, like they're going to notice that. And they're definitely going to notice it if it's soft and flimsy and feels like they're shaking hands with a open can of biscuits. Like
Yeah.
that's going to leave a mark. So don't do that. So I love that they're teaching you that. My kids will tell you right now, like that's what they learned when they were growing up. Like look them in the eye. I don't care who it is, and firm handshake. So good. All right. Well, we're going to go into the job interview. Where did you say you live? I don't think I asked you that. Where are you currently?
I live in Arizona.
Okay.
It's usually hot here, but it's cold in the winter. So
Right. I've
us
been out
Arizona people
there
are
in
pretty wimpy.
July. I've been there in July and it was awful. It was pretty, but it was scorcher. And we were at a
Yeah.
baseball tournament, so it was ridiculous. All right, man. So here we go. Got to put on a different mask, a different hat. Now I'm the interview guy, and I'm looking to hire somebody. Okay, and now you're applying for this. So this job is just a kind of a standard entry level inside sales, marketing, phone calls, right? Customer service. So you're going to be making a lot of calls. You're going to be a part of a team. You'll be in a cubicle, that kind of thing. So I ask everybody this when we, sit down for this interview, and I want you to rank these in order of importance for you. Okay, what you
Yeah.
find most important to least important of these three. So you got income or money. Let's just put that as a category. Second category is respect or recognition from your peers, okay, or your boss, I guess. And then the third category is time off, vacation, time off in general. Okay. Those are the three categories. Rank those in order of importance to you.
So is one the best or is it the
Yep.
worst? One's the
One is what
best.
motivates you, what drives you the most out of those three.
There's three. That's a great question. So it was respect and then income and vacation.
And
So
time off.
I was
Yeah.
my least. I feel like my least one, my number three would be time off. I feel like that's more like
Yeah.
obviously have fun with your family on vacations and stuff, but I feel like that's the least important to me.
Okay.
But income and respect from other people. So it's a very interesting one. So respect from other people, I see it in two different ways. I I see in one way of attention, like I want attention, or is it more like do you want to be seen professionally for a job? Either one. I would say the one for a job would be very important,
Mm-hmm.
but also income is important because like you need jobs for money as well.
Yeah.
So that's a really tough question. I
Yeah.
think,
Well, so let's move into, you're not the only one interviewing for this job, and I got to know maybe what sets you apart, right? If I got to pick one guy and I got 10 people interviewing for this one spot, there's got to be an it factor. There's got to be an edge. There's got to be something that's like the thing that is setting this person apart that makes me choose them. In your opinion, what is that it factor for you about you?
I would say, saying this from not a bragging standpoint, I've even like other people have noticed this, that I'm a pretty committed person, and I like to commit to things and always try to like stick to the rules of that commitment, of what the standards I've set for myself, and not to break those standards and to stick through with it. I would say would be the thing that stands out most about me. It's definitely different for other people,
Mm-hmm.
but I think the thing that I've noticed about myself is that I've always been good at making like I always made challenges for myself, and I just usually like 99% of the time I stuck to them and never like broke them. And I think that's kind of what's stood out to me about,
That's good.
well, me.
Yeah. Yeah. And let me tell you, in a job interview, it is all about you selling yourself. So when you answer these questions, you're not sounding like you're bragging or that you're arrogant, right? Or cocky. You have to convince the guy interviewing you that there is no other option but you for the job. And you can do that in a way that's not offensive, right? So you're doing well. Like that's why I don't want you to say like, "Oh yeah, I commit to things, but I'm not bragging." No, this is the time to brag on yourself because I want to know what's good about you, right? Because if you're coming on my team, I got to know why I'm choosing you. And so that's just a tip for you kind of off the record. But we'll go into the next question here. So, um now in Apogee Strong, I know you guys talk a lot about strengths and weaknesses, right? And developing different areas that you have this aptitude or that you develop a skill. You mentioned that you're always learning, right? Even though you may know everything there is to know about a certain thing, but then there's always that one more thing you can learn. What is a big area for you for improvement? Like if you were to think about yourself and areas that you're trying to get better at? Because we just talked about your strengths. So, what is an area maybe that you feel like you need the most work in?
So I did mention this before, and it's becoming a better communicator. And my problem is that I oftentimes may not say the things that I wish I said, or didn't say anything at all, or I just stuttered too much, or I kind of like froze up and I was like, I don't know what to say, or this and that. And that is my biggest issue for me, is that I just lack the communication skills. But I set forward to improve those skills by, I actually like talk to Toastmasters, and I'm looking into Rotary clubs for public speaking, because that's the one thing that I've noticed about me that I needed to strive towards the most, is being a better communicator. Like what Jordan Peterson said, it just makes you 10 times better at your job
Yeah.
and what you do.
Yeah.
So I think that's my greatest weakness, is that I lack communication and being comfortable, getting uncomfortable with speaking. And even if I sound really good on the call, it's more like in public I struggle with.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my greatest weakness, is
Okay.
communication. So
Okay.
that's why I talked about it earlier, because it's the thing I want to get better at.
Yeah.
And that,
Well, and repetition will do that. Like the more practice you get, right, get more confident, and the more confidence you have, the better communicator you end up being. So they're all kind of tied together. So it's just more reps, really. Just get more
yeah.
practice. So I have one last scenario for you, and then we'll close up. But I'm going to give you like a hypothetical team environment scenario, okay, in the job that you're interviewing for right now, and um, I, you and another person, okay. I've appointed you both together as a project leads to lead a project for the team. Okay. You have to come up with just a plan for how to like motivate, you know, team members, how to get people excited about, you know, whatever sales contest we're having. But, and that's not the most important part of this. The important part that I'm going to ask you is you and this other person that are doing this together, you don't agree on how to do it. So you guys have different ideas. So I want to know from you, what do you do in that situation? Like, what do you do for conflict resolution? What do you do when you have a disagreement and you got to come to an agreement with somebody? What do you do in that scenario?
Maybe focus less on opinion-based things, but maybe try and focus on what works and what doesn't work.
Mm,
I think would work for me. But that's a really good question. And I kind of have to accept the fact that no one can agree on everything,
mm,
and that accepting that, it kind of makes you more at peace
mm,
and look more towards the facts than the emotions for sure. And how I would handle that, I would say stay calm
yeah,
and just listen, and maybe just listen to more to their perspective and see what they mean by what they mean, and
yeah,
maybe be less about what I should say and be more focused on what they are interested in, and see
mm,
if their idea may work or not. But I feel like that's how I would approach
yeah.
it.
I like
Simply
that,
just
man. That's
simply just invest into what they have to say, even if you might not like it, and just
yeah,
simply think it through and see if it will work, and then see if they'll be able to listen to what I have to say.
yeah.
But I think it would have to be more listen to them and see if it's a
That's
good thing.
cool. I mean, I think that's and what I'll add to that, because I love the way where you're going with that, because you can listen. The world needs better listeners. Like in any job, if you can be a good listener, you will go a long way. Now, what some people think is if they just stop talking and let the other person talk, they feel like they're giving in or that they're losing the competition, right? Well, I like what you said about listening, and it's not always got to be a competition in that situation, because then you both get to say your piece, right? You both get to give your perspective. But I think somebody's got to be first at doing that. Someone's got to be first at stepping back and being quiet and letting the other person go. So I like you. I like that, man. You answered that really well, even though maybe it was hard to understand the question at first. But I think the more you listen and then you kind of give your perspective, I think you can come to a resolution. And that's what people need to understand, not just young people, like adults struggle with that. So it's a learned behavior. It's a skill that never gets, it has no expiration date, and it is in high demand. If you can be a good empathetic listener where you can see the other side and get their perspective. So that's a great answer, dude. You kind of hit that one out of the park there at the end. So I appreciate you going into that. But yeah, that was my scenario. Like that was it. And I wanted to see how you did there. And sounds like you, if that was a real thing, if this was a real job interview, sounded like in that situation you would come out pretty good because you seem like you handled that really well. But dude, that's all I have for you, man. This has been kind of fun. I hope you enjoyed it. You got anything like that you would want to say to maybe if anybody, let's say a guy listening to this sends this to his kid and their friend, and maybe they're thinking about joining Apogee sometime, or they've heard about it and they're not sure. What would you say to them to maybe get them excited about joining Apogee Strong?
That starting early matters. It
Mm,
seriously does. And if you start now, like as if this is for the younger people, is that well, I actually made a video. I post videos on YouTube of just me talking about success and stuff.
mm,
And one of them was called "The Greatest Investment is Yourself." So putting more into yourself to get a higher return later, and that your skill and your intelligence and your experience only compounds more the more you simply just start
mm,
early, especially. And I find that a lot of people say that they wish they started doing stuff like things in Apogee when they were my age.
Mm-hmm.
And because it really sets you ahead so much farther than starting when you're like 30 or something. So
Yeah.
you simply have more years, more experience, and more things. So it's very exciting to start earlier because you'll realize how far you've gotten in just like a year. Like
Mm-hmm.
I've only been in this program for like a year and a half and I've drastically changed. And the fact that Apogee's aiming for young people to start now with their journey, it'll really send them ahead in life so
Mm-hmm.
much. And it just always stay committed and always be willing to listen and be humble and just simply invest into yourself, but also
Mm-hmm.
do what's right for your other people
Mm-hmm.
and serve them the best you can.
Yeah. Outstanding. I agree 100%. Start early. Apogee wasn't around when I was your age, but yeah, I think this is a great program. I think it's a much needed, and it's growing like crazy. And so there's going to be a lot more people like you coming into that community. So that's all I have with that. He has been Tate Seever. We've been Last in Line. Be blessed. Logan Wzorek from the Apogee program. Welcome to Last in Line podcast.
Thank you very much. It's an honor to be here. I mean, like when when Mr. Bodro, said there was someone who wanted to have young men on someone's podcast, I was like, wow, really? Because we're always the people talking to the guests, so this is like a completely new experience for me, like the one actually being asked questions.
Yeah, I thought it might be. And a lot of the guys that have been on your podcast that, great, strong men that you guys ask questions to, I've had a lot of those guys on mine as
Oh, really?
well. So it's really kind of a cool crossover. But man, I've got 4 kids and my youngest is 15, my oldest is 25. So I got a real desire to see you guys and your generation win. And so whatever I can do to pour in and invest, I'm all about it. And this isn't like the biggest podcast in the world, but it does have some people that listen regularly, and it'll be encouraging because I know we hear a lot about the next generation, and you hear mixed reviews on where the country's going. And based on the 3 guys that I've interviewed from Apogee, I'm okay with where the country's going if you guys are a snapshot of the leaders that are coming up. So for the listeners, just kind of tell us, who you are, what you're about, where you're from, if you got siblings, and then passion, hobbies, sports, anything like that.
Yeah, so I'm Logan. I'm 16. I'm from a suburb north of Chicago, so we're dealing with all the cold weather and whatnot now. I was first part of the. It's interesting. My mom, she runs an Acton Academy, which is a big network of schools all around the world. And so in that network, she knew a man named Matt Bodro, who a couple years back, maybe going on almost 3 now, like almost about 3 years back, he reached out and he started something called Apogee Strong, and back then it was like really small, maybe 8 or 10 guys, and then or young men rather, and he asked my mom, because they had a relationship through the Acton network. They were both Acton owners, and so my mom came to me 3 years ago when I was a much different person and was going through a bit of a hard time at school with all. It was like it was I wasn't like uh it wasn't the lowest point in my life, but it came in like a week where I was like kind of realizing a couple of things, a couple of things I've been doing wrong, and how it impacted other people, and the sort of statements it made. And so it came sort of in a moment of weakness for me. And then she said if I asked if I wanted to join this thing, and I said sure, because around that time I'd been the way it was originally pitched in all the original videos was like 12 months with like projects and challenges to become a better man. And there's some options. Like the big thing that stuck out to me was the fitness and nutrition, because like that was something I started to get into. And like 3 years ago, I was a bit more pudgy than I am now. I'm still working on that a little bit, but that really interested me. It interested me because you'd see all like the movie stars and whatever, they'd all be super super jacked, and I've been And I saw my older brother, he got some muscle, and I was like, why don't I look like that? I had no clue what I was doing. So that was like one of the biggest draws for me. And so I remember I signed up. I had my meeting with Mr. Bodro, and he was like super kind, and he introduced me to the program. And the next week, I remember right there. I mean, you can't see, but like that window back there, there's another window right there. I remember I still have the table there where I took the very first call. And back then, when it was like 9 or 10 or 15 guys, it was like, I remember the calls being like 3 hours long, and they would continue long after Mr. Bodro hopped off. And so I remember like that, just like the beginning of that. It was like the biggest part for me was, I remember the very first week of workouts was rough. They have you do a lot of, body weight calisthenic stuff, and I could barely do maybe 5 or 10 push-ups. And so they had you do circuits of 10. You do like push-ups, burpees. There was a workout where you had to do like 400 burpees. I remember only being able to do 100 before I was cooked. It was a very, very interesting start to the program, and in a fantastic way. I was starting to learn a lot of things, and I started to do some of the projects and challenges. I remember the first one, they have you do some family meetings and whatnot, and then the second month they have you build out this digital portfolio.
Yeah.
So it's like all the growth has been incredible. My personal favorite part is the weekly calls, because you get to talk to the mentors. You get to ask them questions. You get to talk to Mr. Bodro. He is on, I don't understand now. Maybe one day I will, but he is just on another level. His like dedication, his consistency, like every single week has always gotten on. Every day he's posting things in our workplace that we have, and he's engaging. If you send him a message, he'll get back to you within 30 minutes, and he gets like thousands of messages a day.
Yeah.
And
how old are you?
Yeah, I am 16.
Okay. I've had Matt on my podcast a couple times, and he's one of the better humans that you'll come across, just in general.
Absolutely. And
I'm glad he's kind of the forerunner, kind of the ringleader of what you guys got going on there. And the people he knows is ridiculous. Like just the people that are in his network. So you guys really have a blessing, opportunity that to do this and to meet these guys. And I think it's cool that we're going to talk a lot about the program, of course, and just some of the ways that you've overcome some things and ways that you've grown. But before we dive in, I don't mean to cut you off, because I'm
no worries,
saving all your good stuff for in a minute. But what I do with everybody, so not just the Apogee guys, but even the high level like leaders, entrepreneurs, and stuff that come on the podcast, like I do what's called a life sentence, and I'm gonna do one with you where you're going to finish the sentence for me. Okay. I've got sentences that I read, and this is from your perspective. So you give the audience kind of a flavor for where you stand on whatever I'm about to say. All right. So this is you finishing the sentence. Okay. So the thing I'm starting to learn most about leadership is
learning from mistakes, and not only learning from, but moving on.
Mm-hmm.
Like I just asked him, I'll keep it quick, but I just asked a mentor last week, and he said, it's like, or I guess this was a couple weeks ago, he said that it's like the mistakes you make don't define you. It's like how you treat them. And so that's probably the biggest thing I've been learning. Like this entire, from the beginning of the summer, like I would obsess over mistakes I made, and then that would like knock away at my perception of myself. And then I would just overthink things in general. And that's something I really, really struggled with this past summer and fall. But then I've really gotten better at it, like the beginning of this year, and then the very end of last year.
Yeah.
I think it's one thing to like see a 30-something mentor, talking about their life experience and constantly setting the bar. It's another thing to see like someone the same age as you, like doing work better than you are. And so like to catch up with them.
That's good. Okay. I like that. Let's be honest, 16 is a fairly awkward age in general, between 13 and 16, most likely. But what gets you through those to kind of push through and get what you want eventually?
Really what it is for me is you can't dwell on the mistake that you make. Like, of course, some mistakes are worse than others. You know, some might land you more trouble than others. Others are, like you mentioned, just, you know, awkward or embarrassing. And it's really just realizing that no one's perfect. You hear like everyone makes these kind of mistakes. No one, or like everyone makes mistakes at least. I mean, and if you feel bad about a mistake you made, if it feels like it hurts your character, the more you dwell on that mistake, like I can give you an example. One time I was swimming in a lane I didn't realize was reserved, and I didn't realize it was reserved until someone walked over to kick me out, and I got out of the lane quick because I realized they're about to kick me out, and so I went to the locker room, and that was that. And so, like, if I dwelled on that mistake, I would constantly think of myself as, you know, someone who can never really figure this out, who can't really swim, who can't really do any of this. And the more you dwell on a mistake, the more you're gonna associate it with your character.
Yeah.
And the further you move on from mistake, the further you focus on getting the thing you want or the job you want, like the whatever you want, the more you're going to feel like that person and not the person that made the mistake. It's like Mr. Boger just said today, like the only thing you can control, because you can't change the past, you can't control the future, but you can change and control the present right now. And so that's what gets me through it. And it's hard because you're gonna want to step into the trap of feeling bad for your mistakes and feeling like you're not a good person because of them. But it's all about moving on.
It is, because I'll be honest, and this isn't like earth-shattering breaking news or anything, but life's going to have its share of setbacks for as long as you're breathing. So if you can't figure out how to bounce back, and if you can't figure out how to break through some of the hard work and failure and and adversity, if you can't figure that out, man, you're gonna be kind of spinning your wheels, running in place for a long time, and you're never going to break through to the other side. So yeah, I mean, sometimes we just got to welcome it. Sometimes we just got to say, bring it on. Like, hit me in the mouth, and guess what? I'm coming back tomorrow for the same beating, I guess. But yeah, you go through it, and then you're stronger. And then next time, that thing doesn't seem as big. And so you're right. Don't get overwhelmed by it. Don't dwell on it. And you've got most of life conquered if you can figure that out. Now, as we get into Apogee and maybe a little more about what you were talking about earlier and some of the things you've learned, what are you hoping to get out of Apogee? So give me an idea of maybe what your expectations or goals were, and then kind of what do you hope to, once you've kind of cashed your chips out and move on from the program, like what are you hoping is going to be one of the biggest takeaways for you? So give me a before and after kind of thing. Like what were your goals going in, and then what are you hoping that you come out with?
I didn't really have any intentional goals going into it, which is very interesting because it speaks a lot to the program, because now I'll constantly be setting targets, trying or failing, hitting those targets. So my goal, I would remember when I started running for the first time. I don't run as much anymore because I had to switch to swimming, but it would just be like I would set a goal or target I wanted to hit. I would go do that thing with the help of the people in the Apogee program. So like when you have to go, like they give you those targets at first, right? They tell you to go, one of the challenges, you interview 3 CEOs. I was like, okay, so you do that. And then eventually what it does, it's really beautiful what it does. It makes you, it gives you what you need to follow your own dreams. And as cliche as that sounds, like there's so many different people doing so many different things in the Apogee program. It's like we have dancers, we have the YouTubers, we have tons of martial arts guys, we have fitness guys. It's incredible. And so what it does is it has you set a target like on your own, because you want to constantly be better once you're in the program, because there's always people being better in the program. And so that was the before. It's like that's like the big middle portion, just setting goals and accomplishing them. What's interesting is once you complete the year in the program, once you're in for a year, you can stay for however long you want. And so I don't see myself leaving the program for ever. I like at least for another 15, I don't see a stop at all. Like I could go like 10, 20, like 30 more years and I would still be in it. And, maybe at the point where I could be a mentor on there, which is way down the line.
Great.
Yeah. Maybe that'll be a good endpoint, but
that's a great goal. Don't ever. Yeah. Run with that. Because it is part of life is like once you've accumulated experience and knowledge and wisdom and success, the point is not just for you to sit on it and pump your fist in the air. The point is for you to look behind you and pull other people with you and
Yeah.
teach that and train that and encourage that. So yeah, that's going to have to be part of your plan down the road. But so let's say you're sitting in front of a group of potential Apogee students that are considering it. What would be kind of your pitch to them? Like, I know you said your mom kind of pitched you on it and you were all in because you trust her, but guys that you're talking to now, let's just, for an example, they don't know you, so they don't necessarily completely trust you, I guess. But what are you going to say to them about the program that would kind of get them all in like you were?
That you understand that it's not school, that no one's going to sit down and tell you like, oh, okay, you got to go make your $10,000 this month or this year, or go start this business, whatever. It's all you. No one's telling you to go do this. I have never heard Mr. Bodro tell somebody like you have to do this project and challenge by this date unless they're about to be kicked out for not doing those things or not showing up to the weekly calls.
Yeah.
So that's what I would tell them. I would say, if you want to get there, this is how you get there, but it's not a guarantee unless you're all in.
That's good. Yeah. And I would also imagine it's not free for everybody, and it's, there's an investment. So why would you want to waste that? So, okay, well, that's good. Enough of the nice guy. Okay. I've been nice long enough, Logan. So what I do with everybody. So you're the last but not least. You're the fourth guy. I've interviewed 3 of you, and you're competing for the same job. Caveat: there's not a real job. This is fake. All right. So don't email me later and go, hey, what about that job? How much does it pay? Okay. No. All right. So you're going to sit down. All right. This is a standard entry level customer service, marketing, on the phone a lot, in a cubicle. Okay. I'm looking for one guy. I've interviewed several. Okay. And I'm looking for one. So you're sitting down with me. All right. Here we go. It's on. So Logan, you've read, you know what the job's about. I want to hear from you kind of what is about you, because I'm looking for an it factor. If I'm filling one spot and I got 10 people looking for that spot, I need an it factor from you. Like, what's going to separate you? Everybody's good. Everybody works hard. Everybody's smart. I don't need just standard, that kind of answer. I want to know what about you I can't get from anybody else. So what makes the it factor for Logan Wzorek?
For me, I would say the reason I'm sitting here today is because, maybe 6 months ago, a year ago, I set a goal and said I want to be here, and that goal terrified me. I didn't think I would ever be able to be sitting in this chair that I am right now. And I would say there's a very linear and then exponential growth to how I've gotten here today, and I have no intention to stop that at all. What separates me from other people is once I have this goal, I intend to never ending growth in this goal. And if I'm going to choose to do something, if I'm going to dedicate all the time I already have to do something, you better believe I'm going to be the best that I possibly can.
Okay. I like it. So I need you I've asked other people the same thing, so it's only fair to ask you this. I've got 3 categories that I consider motivators, things that inspire people at work, things that will drive you. So I've got 3 categories. I want you to rank them in what, top to bottom, what is the most motivating to you, then what is the least, okay, of these 3. The first one's going to be income, okay, pay, money, bonus, commission, whatever, cash. That's one category. Respect and recognition of coworkers and boss. Okay. Respect and recognition. And then the last one is time off. So is that an incentive for you? That kind of thing. Time off, vacation, just kind of time to unplug away from the job. So those are 3 categories. Give me 1 being the most motivating, 3 being the least.
I'm going to put money at the very last, so 3. And the reason I put it at the very last is because this is an entry-level position. I wouldn't have signed up for it or signed up to potentially be the one hired for it if I didn't understand that it's not going to pay as much as a job that I hope to have in 10 or 15 years.
Yeah.
The reason I'm here is to grow and learn from it so I can apply it to other sectors of my life, which is why I would put the time off at number 2. And that's not because I want to go be lazy or go play video games or whatever instead of working. It's because I would want to reflect, and that's huge for me. I want to reflect on the work I've done, how I can do it better, how it's made me better as a person. Now, the way that transitions into my number 1, which would be the respect, not so much the recognition, because people will only recognize the work you're doing until it like matters for them, or it's like really cool, or you're like, or when they can get something out of you. I would rather have the respect, because anyone can be recognized, like anyone can be a one-hit wonder and then be recognized for it. But the respect is when the person is consistent and dedicated to the work they're doing, and they're always going to do the best job they can. And the respect, especially if you're working with high quality people, which I believe I will if I get this job, that respect is at such a higher bar than everywhere else. And if I have that respect, then I know I'm doing something right.
Okay, I got one last thing for you. I asked everybody this too, and this is a scenario I'm going to put you in. Hypothetical scenario. Okay, you and a teammate I'm going to put in the lead for a project for the team. Okay, and what the project is pretty irrelevant. Okay, but you two are in charge of putting together this project. It turns out your idea for this project and how you can resolve and come up with a solution is different than the teammate, than the guy you're working with. How do you resolve that difference? Or if it potentially turns into a conflict, how do you come up with an answer that I guess will serve the entire team when both of you have such different approaches?
Okay. So the biggest issue I would see foremost right now, while I would have, of course, the company's best interest at mind, I would see that I'm arguing, like you said, maybe it's turned into a bit of a conflict, which can easily turn into an argument. Your team is watching that happen. So if they see their leaders feeling unconfident in the things they're doing and they're disagreeing and whatever, and the team sees that, then your entire team is screwed. You and your coworker included that you're having a conflict with. So that's what I would recognize first. So this is my top priority, to fix this immediately, to have everyone happy, and more importantly, have the team see that this issue was resolved, and that even though this was a big hurdle, we can resolve this issue together. So what I would do is, first off, you have to fully understand the other person's idea. You have to make sure they feel heard, and not just they feel heard, that you actually hear them, because those are two very different things. So you have to take in their ideas. You have to remove your ego. And I can't remember if you said my idea was better or not, but you want to remove your ego from it, look at it completely objectively, and then here's the route I would go in. I would go very personal with the person. And I don't mean that in a petty way. I would say, hey, I've been working with you. I have a lot of respect for you. I respect your ideas. I enjoy hanging out with you as a person. I don't think you're a bad person. I just think, I truly think, without ego involved, I think my idea could better serve the team. And that's not to say that your idea is bad. I just think my team, as your friend, as your coworker, as someone that respects you, I humbly say that this, I think, will be better for the team overall. And If it doesn't work, I will take full responsibility for it, and you will be like left out of it. And if it doesn't work out, we can always do your idea as well. Because if my
Yeah.
idea didn't work out, and your idea that was probably better and would work out.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, that was good. You got to a couple things. You hit on some things that I was hoping you said, and you did. So that's good, man. Okay. So job interview's over. Now we're back to the podcast. You did good, man.
Okay.
There was no wrong or right really answer there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I just wanted to give you an idea of what people want to know. Job
Mm-hmm.
managers, hiring people, HR people, like they want to know why you're different. They want to know what do you do when kind of the crap hits the fan, and there's discord on the team. They want to know what motivates you. They want to know how you solve problems. I mean, those are the pretty much the staples and foundation of what somebody's looking for. Now, as the roles get more intense and higher paying and more responsibility, obviously there's more like granular questioning that goes on. But for an entry level, those are basic staples that you can almost count on for any job interview. So you did good, man. Do you have any message for your teammates, your partners, your guys that, your ride or dies that are in this program with you? So I give you the floor to talk to them real quick.
If you have something you want to do, a dream you truly have that will benefit other people, that will change you as a person, that, if you have a goal or dream that you truly want to accomplish, you need to push towards that goal. And if anyone tells you that you can't do it, don't let that stop you. Use that as fuel for the fire. When I was training to be a lifeguard and I was telling people about, or I didn't tell a lot of people because I didn't want to tell a lot of people, but when I told some of the people I trusted, they would say, maybe this won't work out. Maybe you should lower the bar. I don't think, I think you should just count for that. I said, maybe I didn't say it like this, but I thought to myself, I was like, no, like I want this. I'm going to have this. And whether that's like ignorant or whatever, I'm going to do everything I possibly can. But if you have a goal you want to accomplish, work towards it. And if someone disagrees with you or says, hey, you cannot do this, use that as fuel for the fire until you have it.
Yeah. Yeah. So good. I agree. I tell people sometimes I used to coach baseball, and I would tell guys to play as if was one of my sayings. Like, play as if there's a scout watching you. Play as if you're already the level you want to be. Like I would say to the guys, to your point, you got a person of an idea or vision of who you want to become. Play as if you're that guy already. Like live as if you're already doing the thing you want to do. And your body will create muscle memory and habits and behaviors that align with that person. But dude, you're on the right track. You're on a great trajectory. So, man, it's been good to get to meet you. With that audience, he's been Logan Wzorek. We've been Last in Line. Be blessed.